What is up? What's going on, everybody? Johnny, the military CEO from JohnnyLiner.com. And just want to talk with you guys today. Another video discussing why real estate should be part of your retirement strategy and everything in between. Because so many people that I talk to with different clients that they really don't have an overall plan for their retirement or to, stop doing a certain job or career and transition to something that requires less time. And so that's one of the things that most people that, from having a conversation, they don't have a strategy. They don't have a plan on where they want to be 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now. And that's a problem. If you don't have a plan for your finances, then it's highly likely that you won't end up at the end game or at the future date with everything that you need and everything that you want that you if you don't plan for it. And so that's why we're going to talk today about why real estate, because so many people real estate invest. I want to invest in real estate is the way to build wealth, but they don't have an overarching strategy when it comes to different components on how to get there. And so we're going to talk about why real estate should be part of your strategy overall and everything that you need to do. And I think, going through that, you got to have a mix. You got to look at stocks and bonds. You got to look at your 401k with your employee match and to make sure that you're not missing out on contributions from your employer. But you want to make sure that you have an overarching plan outside of real estate where you're truly diversified. And, so I think the first step with that is we'll talk about the power of real estate, because the thing is that it is a power, an extremely powerful tool when you start looking at the benefits of real estate. With me, I started, using my VA loan. For those who don't know my story, active duty Air Force now over 19 years. Got my first property back in 2006. And, it's been a continuous journey with an upward trajectory the entire time. But I think the thing is today that a lot of times when you look at real estate and, everybody's journey is going to be different. That you don't need 1,000 doors to be successful. You don't need 120 doors to be successful. You can be successful with two, three, four, five, six, seven rental properties, whatever the number is, but you got to figure out what that is to you and how does that integrate into the lifestyle that you want to build and have. And for me, looking back at that first property, I used my VA loan. I actually walked away with over $300 from closing, and it just was a mind shock for me because I didn't have that knowledge of real estate, and so it was a learning experience, and it really piqued my interest with looking at how I was able to get into this property, no money down, saving money on my housing costs because it was less than what I was paying in rent, and going through that process. It just opened my eyes and like, hey, let me look more at real estate, because you see the Donald Trumps and when I found Rich Dad Poor Dad and just the different strategies that other successful people have used leveraging real estate, and being able to take that over less than 20 years to turn that $300 received at close into over $14 million portfolio. As we go to the end of 2024, we'll be generating over $1 million in revenue, from annual revenue from our rental properties from that portfolio. And it's a blessing, but it started with one deal. It started with one deal. It started with taking action. It started with being disciplined and consistently showing up, evolving, networking, meeting other individuals, and continue to challenge myself as we go forward. My wife and I were building the portfolio, building the business, and taking it to the next level. And when you start looking at it, that a lot of times, a lot of people when you go work in traditional 9 to 5, that you end up focused in on just your traditional mindset when you come to investments, that stocks and bonds. And you see here recently that a lot of times with the market changes, that they're all right there together, they're not uncorrelated. When you look at the stocks and bonds, they're right there. When one's going up, they're both kind of trending in the right direction. But when you look back at most recently 2022, that both stocks and bonds took a dip. And if you're in retirement, when you start looking at right now with projections that, it's a 25% chance that a married couple that's 65, that one of them will actually live to reach the age of 93. And now when you start talking about retirement, it's like, okay, your money with healthcare, people living longer, and just everything that we have with technology now, will your money last long enough to take care of you, or will you outlive your money? And so that's a real concern for those that are near close to the retirement ages. But for those that are, in their 30s, 40s, you start looking at inflation's taking away a lot of your buying power. Taxes right now, if you don't have real estate, you're probably getting, as you make more and more income, that you're exposed to having to pay more and more taxes. But going back to the traditional mindset that, being in the stock market, if when you have those wild swings, is that good? Should all your money be tied up in there? Historically, when you look at the stock market, that the returns, average between 4 and 7%, but we already know you're making 4% on your money. But the Federal Reserve is saying they want inflation to be 2%. So right off the bat, you've lost half of that 4% to inflation at the end of the day. And then if you have to pay taxes on that money, then now you're talking about, an even bigger hit. And so we at the end of the day, you're really not making a whole heck of a lot when you start factoring in inflation, when you start factoring in taxes, and when you look at the volatility. When you look back to 2008 financial crisis, that the market lost, over 50%, 57% of value during that time frame. Most recently, the in 2022, there was a large dip. I think the numbers were around 24% value loss on the Nasdaq back in 2022. It recovered, the next year, but for someone that's living off that income, that could be a drastic decrease in value. And and that's one of the things with the volatility, and that's why you have to be diversified. A lot of people is not an all in real estate, all in stocks. You got to have a diversification strategy. You got to have a plan to make sure you kind of mitigate that volatility in your exposure. Real estate appreciation. And then, one of the things with benefits with real estate, one, we have the passive income, we have the tax breaks, and then we also have the appreciation. And those who own real estate the last 3, 4 years, in some markets you've seen over 40% appreciation. From and I talk about how with my first apartment complex, we bought it for 1,050,000 in 2020. In 2022, the value shot up. Want to it shot up, to 1.76 million for the next appraisal that we had when we refinanced. And I recently got an offer for, they wanted to have the right terms, but an offer for 2.4 million here a few months ago. And so, the owning real estate and inflation and the opportunities that you have with the passive income, rents going up, and more people choosing to rent just with higher interest rate environments, more people choosing to rent versus buy and own. And you look at the numbers, 72% rental increase from 2000 to 2020. Imagine if you had, a property or two paid off that was paying you in retirement. Like, you creating your own pension plan, and, one of the scenarios we're talking with my mentors that kind of shared that, this individual had a little bit under $100,000, but he took it and bought three properties around 33,000 a piece. And each property was paying $800 a month in rent. So he paid them completely off. And so now that was bringing in $2,400 each month that was going into his bank account. And so now compare that, if he was living off 4% of say $100,000, he's making $4,000 a year he could take out of that pension he had from working 30 years. That 4% is $4,000 divided by 12 months. So you're talking about he was going to be bringing in less than $400 a month off that lump sum. Plus, he still had to pay taxes on it. And so, versus going and buying three properties and the passive income that could be generated from those properties and the tax breaks, we need to talk about the tax breaks, and the future appreciation and the opportunities that you have there. That real estate is a great component to hedge against inflation, buy down your risk to your portfolio, and ensure that you have that income that's constantly coming in for the long term. So when I kind of briefly talked about it, but the next big one is the tax advantages. When you start talking about real estate and digging into the asset class, the real estate is one of the few assets where the IRS, they view it as it's appreciating and going up in value, that they actually allow you to take a loss and depreciate it in the asset, where the value of the asset in the eyes of the IRS is going down, that it's losing value. And so that's one of the things that you look at with the opportunities that you have with being able to shelter you know gains that you have or income that you have. If you're a real estate professional, you can augment W2 income with depreciation from real estate. A great example, if you start looking at a property that's worth You know, in this case, 275,000, you divide it by 27 and a half years, you could potentially write off $10,000 each year of depreciation. So if you do use that VA loan, you buy a property, live in it for a year, then you convert it to a rental property. Now you got no money down and you're bringing in $10,000 of depreciation each year. That now, that wipes out that income that's made from the property. Now you can depreciate along with your any mortgage interest payments, insurance, any expenses that's tied to the property, utilities, things like that. You can write all that off and not have to have that income that's taxed. So depreciation is a great one. And when we start talking about multifamily, buying apartments with bonus depreciation over the last few years, with you being able to get an extremely large boost of depreciation in the first year of ownership with commercial assets, that has been phenomenal with that. Another big one is 1031 exchanges. If you decide to sell a property instead of realizing the capital gain tax, you could take the proceeds, put them in escrow with an attorney, and roll those over and buy another property and forego having to pay taxes on the profit that you made in those deals. Another big one is the pass-through deduction with the Tax Cut Jobs Act. That now, with 20% reduction in your rental income, that you can continue to reduce those taxable income. And the thing is, it's not about how much money you make; it's about how much money you keep. And so, being able to have and work with a CPA that's really savvy when it comes to real estate, it just allows you to bring in more capital to keep more money at your disposal that you can reinvest and continue to grow your net worth. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And kind of going through and understanding what are the moves, the strategy that you have, and what's the best decision that you should make for you and your household. And that's one of the big things. And because you have to be creative, you have to go through it. I know when we moved to the DC area in 2013. We already had bought, of course, the house in '06. We had bought a HUD foreclosure in 2011 in the Newport News area. We had recently picked up a $25,000 rental property in Birmingham, and we were going through the process. We were buying another personal residence, had found another HUD foreclosure, and we were going through the process, and Wells Fargo, for whatever reason, they were like, hey, your debt to income ratio is still off. And I had bought my 2006 Corvette right before I got married, the summer of 2010, as I was moving back to the East Coast, leaving Texas. And but it came down, they were like, hey, your debt to income ratio with the properties that you own, your income, that is not working out. So what we had to do, we went and actually I sold a car. And it was funny. I paid 32,000 for it, and owned it for a little bit less than 3 years, and sold it to CarMax for 28,000. So just like that, boom, wiped out like a $500 car payment. And long story short, Wells Fargo still came back saying, "Yeah, no, we can't get the deal done." And we ended up, and this was I think 4 days before closing, and we took it to another lender, got an extension, and this lender closed in less than 2 weeks. So it is what it is. But it allowed me to augment my debt to income ratio where we could get the deal done. And the cool part with that, that was 2013, and back in 2023, 10 years later, we were able to sell that property and make over 160K uh, for that. Definitely that '06 Corvette definitely isn't worth 160,000 in value. So just being able to look at how you can take liabilities, get rid of them, start buying assets with the capital that you're doing, and just being a good steward of the resources that you have and making wise decisions, because time is your friend, and with these investments that they're going to pay off long term, but you have to have a long term vision with going through that process. And but the thing is, you got to get started. It all starts with one deal. It all starts with getting going and having your strategy. So what are the steps that you can take? We start talking about, hey, this is all fun, and then you built a multi-million-dollar portfolio and the revenue and everything. But what can I do? And there's some ways to get there. One, looking back, start small. It starts with one deal. For my veterans, look at how you can leverage the VA loan. When I bought my first property with the VA loan, I didn't realize that I could buy a multifamily with the VA loan. That's right. You can go and buy a duplex, triplex, or quadplex with your VA loan. So that was the number one resource that I had because I didn't have a lot of capital set back and savings. And one of the things with a VA loan, you don't have to have perfect credit. I tell my story all the time on how I had to have another family member to sign on my lease for my apartment when I first moved to Georgia with my first job, and that was a humbling event. I got my credit together. Then less than a year later, I got the position to buy one side of a duplex for the property using a VA loan. And so I say start small. Use the resources that you have. You got FHA loans out there. There are a lot of first time home buyer programs out there. And you can use these programs to buy up to a 4 unit. And you can become an instant landlord, have passive income coming in from day one, and it actually be used to help qualify you for the loan. But the thing is that this is a way for you to start. You don't have to make a 20, 25% upfront down payment, and you can start building wealth sooner. Always focus on cash flow. Like I don't buy for appreciation. We always focus on cash flow. My saying is, if it doesn't cash flow, let it go. That you want to focus on cash flow. So running your numbers, doing your analysis to make sure that it's a sound investment, and then appreciation is just the cherry on top with all of this. And the next big piece is educate yourself. Finding the books, the webinars, networking with other investors, podcasts, coaches out there, mentors, find communities that resonate, that with someone that you can learn from, that resonates with your approach, your strategy that you want to leverage, and then just start executing. But at the end of the day, it's going to actually come down to you putting in the work and you being able to execute and go to the next level. Because I wish I could do the work for you and be able to put in the reps, but you got to do it yourself. Just like having someone else go to the gym for you and do the workouts and reps so you can get a ripped body. That it's not going to happen. But you got to start with your first deal. You got to start with the habits, the schedule, with making time for learning more about real estate investing and making the decision that you're going to change your life for the better, and looking for all those opportunities out there on how you can create those multiple streams of income. Right now we own 5 apartment complexes. We have private investors that's in the deals with us, and we're creating wealth and helping a lot of people build wealth through these real estate transactions. And that's the thing with it, that there's more than enough out here, that we operate with a sense of abundance and not scarcity, and knowing that we can get any deal done whenever we have to. And so that's the thing that has been a game changer for me, is just the relationships with different lenders, investor partners that we have in our deals, and that it's a holistic approach to get the deals done. If you're looking for the right community that you can partner with, I definitely extend a warm welcome. REI Genius, my company, where we have the tools and support right there to help you guys succeed. And the biggest thing for me is, being able to be a conduit to provide those resources that I wish that I had coming up through my journey, and meeting people where they are to help them start building wealth. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely tap in. Check out the website, for this blog article we kind of walked through today, but you can see the blog article and kind of go through some of the details there, and sources, and do a little bit more research, and and get going. And then if you're like, hey, I want a little bit more information on how do I put my retirement plan, I need some help, would love to tap in with your team, then we can have a conversation with myself or Coach Jessica, and just go to the website, book your consultation call. We would love to have a conversation to see what your goals are, what you're thinking about, what are you trying to do, how are you trying to get on the right track, and how we're able to help you achieve your goals. So that's what it's all about. Getting started. You need to have a diversified approach. You need to have a financial plan. If you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. So with that, make sure you guys tap in, book your consultation call. We'd love to have a conversation with you, and we'll see you on the next video. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and share in the comments, where you are right now in your journey, some things that you need, or information that you're looking to gain to give you an upper hand to get you going on your wealth building journey. And we'll see you all on the next video. Let's go. Let's make some equity happen together, y'all.